Hello my friends and welcome to another video from Karotul. My name is Arpit Pandit and I am one of the trainers here in Karotul organization, and we all know that the new CCNA, CCNP and CCIE courses or the exams are already out. They are active now, and of course we have already read about this. You must have also gone through Cisco website and try to get the grab of it, what's going on. But of course it's always nice to have the basic idea or the core idea of these exams in a concise and clear way. That's exactly what we are doing in this video. What I'm going to go through in this video is to explain you what has changed in the terms of more specifically CCN and CCNP, because CCI I have made a very detailed video before also, so definitely go check that out on YouTube. But for CCN and CCNP, what exactly has changed, and more specifically what do you need to do if you are in the middle of preparation? Because most of the people, what's happening is that if you're starting from scratch, then it's not a problem. Anyway, you will take a few months before you are ready for the exam. But let's say if you had already been preparing for CCNA, maybe you already attempted your CCNA last month or a couple of months back, unfortunately couldn't get it, and now the exam has changed on 24th Feb, right? So after the exam has changed, now you are wondering that how much of your old knowledge will be still relevant to this one. What new things do you need to learn? How fast can you learn these things? And how, of course, the biggest question, that how early or how quickly can you take the exam, right? Because ultimately what you want to do is to get certified, and that's why we are going to first of all understand the structure of exam changed, what has changed, and then we will go in depth into the topics they are asking, especially in CCNA, because CCNP, it depends which CCNP you are going to attempt. There are different streams, 5 streams to be specific, which they call the core exams for them. And of course finally we will also talk about our organization Karotul, how can we help, and how do you get that Karotul edge which will get you certified. So let's get started. The very first part which I'm going to talk about right now is the old structure. So what was the old structure for the exams? So different CCNA was there for in the old structure. You know that when CCNA actually started in 1998, they only had a single CCNA for routing and switching. But now we know the current CCNA which we were doing until last year, there were so many different CCNA structures according to the different streams. We had CCNA routing and switching, of course. We had CCNA security, CCNA wireless, CCNA collaboration, CCNA data center. So there so many different options were there. CCNA service provider was also there. And the structure of the exam, there were 2 steps for doing any CCNA if you want to do, irrespective of which one you wanted to do. There was a CCNT exam, ICND 1, and then there is a CCNA exam. So you can actually take 2 exam procedure where the exam codes are ICND 1, ICND 2, interconnecting Cisco networking devices 1 and interconnecting Cisco networking devices 2. If you just do the ICND 1, you still get a certificate which is called CCNT, which means the Cisco certified entry level network technician. And then if you pass the ICND 2 exam also, you will get CCNA certified, or you would have gotten CCNA certified. So what they did earlier is that if you wanted to go, for example, CCNA security, you don't want to do CCNA routing switching, you just wanted to do CCNA security, still you have to pass the CCNT exam. So basically for all CCNAs, ICND 1 was a prerequisite, and after passing CCNT you can do the more specific CCNA, like in routing switching or service provider or wireless, everything else, right? That was a 2-step procedure to get your CCNA exam. CCNP, on the other hand, has a prerequisite of CCNA in the respective technology. So as I told you that there were different CCNPs also, and let's say if you want to do CCNP collaboration, you have to have CCNA collaboration first, then only you can go ahead and do the CCNP. You cannot directly do you could not directly do CCNP in the old structure. Excuse me. And all the exams, CCNA and CCNP certifications, were valid for 3 years. So you had to do recertification every 3 years. There was no other way. You had to do a recertification concept, right? So this is the basic, you can see the idea of the old structure. By the way, the CCIE was the only thing which was different, because CCIE had no prerequisite, but you did have a written exam which which used to be called CCIE qualification exam, and you don't get any certificate for that. It is just called CCIE qualification written exam. And once you pass the written exam, you had a lab exam. So until now, before 24th Feb 2020, all the CCIE exams, CCIE lab exams, had a very simple structure, very straightforward structure. You would have one written exam done, and then in the lab exam you will have 8 hours, out of which they divide this into 3 parts. You had a troubleshooting part. The first 2 hours are troubleshooting, 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how much time you need. And if you don't use 2.5 hours, less than that time can be compensated to the lab part, the configuration lab part. After T-shoot, you had a 30 minutes fixed diagnostic part. Diagnostic is pretty similar to CCNP T-shoot exam, where you don't get access to the device configuration mode. You just can see some show commands, some outputs, and you have to answer some questions based on that. And then the last part was 5 to 5.5 hour of configuration lab. So that was the 8 hours structure of CCIE. But as I told you that I do have a separate CCIE video, very detailed about all the information which is changing and what they expect from you now. But just to give you a quick review, what will change in CCIE is that instead of having just simply troubleshooting and configuration lab, now it's a complete life cycle of the network they will ask you, where you have to do the design, deploy, implement, management, and the optimization. So the complete life cycle of a network, starting from designing all the way to optimizing and troubleshooting, everything will be asked, no matter which part you will do. Plus everything has been now concised to 5 different parts or 5 different types of technologies they are asking. They call them enterprise, which is actually the more of the routing, switching, and little bit of wireless. So that's the enterprise. And then you have service provider, you have security, you have collaboration, and data center. So these are the only 5 different streams now you have. You can go for CCNP and in CCIE. Alright, now the CCIE certification used to be valid for 2 years, right? So every 2 years you had to recertify CCIE, and that's where they are changing it now in the new structure you will see. Now talking about CCNA, new CCNA, what do you expect, what is changed? And let's go a little bit deeper into this part and see if you are in the middle of preparation, what do you need to do. So the exam code is changed. Of course, exam code is now 200-301, and that actually brings us to this very important change, that now you have a single composite CCNA. You don't have multiple CCNAs anymore. You have a single CCNA which will give you the basic idea of most of the technologies, and then you can actually take the exam. So basically CCNA, all the CCNAs are gone. It's a single CCNA now, and there is no CCNT anymore. You can directly take this exam 200-301 and done. You will get a CCNA certification. Now the training you can take for this from Cisco currently offered is called Implementing and Administering Cisco Solutions. But these trainings are something which Cisco perform only on few places, and these are pretty expensive also, to be honest. And the topics now covered in the exam, if you see the topics, you can see that most of these things you already know, so you will not have to worry about these topics. We will go into the details of this. Networking fundamentals, network access, IP connectivity, IP services, and then 2 completely new things which were not into the CCNA routing switching at least, was security fundamentals and automation and programmability. So these 2 new things they were at. Security fundamentals is to make sure that you know the basics of security as well, and automation and programmability part will make sure that you get to know the basics of the SDN technology Cisco is pushing so much, software defined networking, and it's ACI structure, it's DNA structure Cisco has implemented. So these new DevNet concept has to be there. By the way, there is a separate dedicated CCNA now for DevNet developers and networkers, and that DevNet has a CCNA, CCNP DevNet certifications specialist also out there. But talking about CCNA, what do you have in fundamentals, what do you have in network access, what is the detail of these things. So you will see that mostly it is the content which you had in CCNA routing switching plus the content which you had in CCNA wireless. So basic wireless connectivity practicals will be there and routing switching practicals will be there. Introduction to the QoS, which can be taken from collaboration, for example, is there, but there is not configuration into that part. Same thing can be said for security. There is not much configuration, but more of the topics. So practical wise, you will have more practicals of Cisco routing switching and wireless part, wireless LAN controllers, wireless access points, their GUI interface. Those things will be there in the CCNA exam. Up to what level, it's not going to be much. It's more routing and switching part will be there because it's a network fundamental, but still you expect some wireless configuration to be involved. So just to show you, this is the official CCNA curriculum from Cisco. Excuse me. So you can see that in the official curriculum, the Cisco CCNA 200-301 exam, it's a 120-minute exam, so you get 2 hours. But if you are from a non-native English speaking country, then you will get 30 minutes extra. So you actually get 2.5 hours to complete your practical exam. Now the topics, now they clearly say this. You can see here that the following topics are the general guidelines for the content likely to be included on the exam. So they cannot guarantee that only these things will be asked. They might ask you other related topics as well. So this is just like a byline. You cannot say that okay, I learned everything from this list and why did I get another question from somewhere. So Cisco is very tricky or fishy here in this case. Anyway, but you can see a lot of things will be pretty similar and you already know about these things if you are learning for CCNA or what we already cover in CCNA routing switching. Introduction, explain the role and function of the network components. Now remember, whenever you see the syllabus from Cisco, you have to pay attention to the keywords: explain, describe, compare. Unless you see something like this, configure, that you will not have any practical or simulation for that part. Simulation will only come for the part where you see the keyword configure. Other questions will be multiple choice questions for that part. So here we just need to understand the role and function of these network components. What does the router do? What does a layer 2 and layer 3 switch does? Layer 3 and layer 3 switch do? Next generation firewalls, NGFW and IPS devices, access points and the wireless controllers. So wireless LAN controller and Cisco DNA center, which is used in the SDN, software defined networking. These controllers, what is the use of them? What are the endpoints like computers, printers, and the servers which are used? Physical servers also as the virtualized servers in the organization. So the basic idea about how these devices work. Then you have the excuse me. Then you have the describe characteristics of network topology architecture, that how many different ways we can create topology. So there are Cisco 2-tier, 3-tier, spine leaf topology. It's very simple to understand these structures. WAN topologies, how different WAN connections are done. In the WAN you will see that there is metro Ethernet, there is there are TDM lines, time division multiplexing lines like T1, T3, E1, E3, also known as digital signal 1 or digital signal 3. DSL connections, cable connections. What are the different methods are there to have the WAN connectivity? What is SOHO, small office, home office, how does they connect to the networks? And on-premise and cloud, what is the difference between on-premise networks, means where you have the perimeter security, everything is under the corporate network, and what is on cloud, which you can access from anywhere. So just the description of that will be there. Again, no practicals part. Now compare physical interface and cabling type. So again, this is also very basic networking part. Types of cabling, fiber cables, copper cables, and types of media, and power over Ethernet connections. How do they work? So basic idea behind them. So you can see until now nothing is special. Identify interface and cable issues. So what kind of errors you see into the physical interfaces and how to identify them. So you can see they are actually concentrating more on the physical aspect of the network. So you become the first level of troubleshooting guy or girl, troubleshooting personnel who will actually check physical aspects of it. Comparing the TCP and UDP, configure and verify IPv4 addressing and subnetting. This is the first configure keyword. So this is something we have to make sure we go into detail. Good news is that this was already into the CCNA of routing switching, so this is something we all know that we have to go into the detail. Describe the need for private IPv4 addressing, very easy also, nothing new here. Configure and verify IPv6 addressing and prefix, yes, that was also part of old CCNA, we still do it. All the comparison of IPv6 addresses, we still do it. Verify IP parameters for client OS, that is how to configure IP addressing on the clients, not a big deal. Now comes the wireless part. You can see this is new. Describe wireless principles. What is the meaning of different Wi-Fi channels, which we call the frequencies? What is the meaning of SSID, RF and encryption technologies used into wireless? So this is new, this part. If you were preparing for CCNA, this is something you have to brush up if you want to go for the new CCNA exam. Virtualization fundamentals was not specifically there in CCNA routing switching, so this is also something you will have to do. And then comes again something which we do in detail, actually more detail than required in the current CCNA. Switching, MAC learning and aging, frame switching, frame flooding, MAC address table, right? So that's the network fundamentals part. That is the 20% of the exam, right? So if you get like 60 questions, there will be around 12 questions from this one, right? Now second part is also 20%, network access, where you have VLAN configuration. Yes, we do this in CCNA routing switching. Configure, verify inter-switch connectivity, trunking and VLANs, yes. CDP and LLDP, LSCP and spanning tree protocol. All of these things you must have been doing in your CCNA preparation if you had been doing it. So nothing new. This is not new part. Port fast also not new. Compare Cisco wireless architectures and access point modes. This is new. Again, wireless specific thing. Describe physical infrastructure for a WAN WAN components. Again, new. Describe access point and wireless LAN controller management access connections. So telnet, secure shell, HTTP, text plus radius. So these protocols we already talked in CCNA, and we are not unfamiliar with these. These are pretty familiar concepts. But how to use them into the wireless LAN infrastructure, that part will be the new thing. And then configure the components of a wireless LAN access for client connectivity using GUI only. So no command line for the wireless, such as VLAN wireless LAN creation, security settings, QoS profiles, and advanced wireless LAN settings. So this is the keyword you are looking for. Configure. So you might have some labs or simulation for the wireless configuration. So for this part, you will have to have the access to a wireless LAN controller and at least a couple of access points to get this done, right? All right, now IP connectivity is something again we already know, and this is not new. The structure of a routing table, the best path choosing mechanism, static routing, and OSPF version 2, and describe the purpose of the FHRP protocols, describing only of the HSRP, VRRP, GLBP. But you see something very interesting. EIGRP is gone. You no longer have enhanced interior gateway routing protocol, and RIP is also gone. So that's huge actually. EIGRP is Cisco proprietary protocol. Now Cisco is not pushing it, you can see, just teaching you OSPF. What a change, huh? So EIGRP or RIP, you don't need to worry about this anymore. But if you take our videos, we will actually include them also, because it's always good to know more routing protocols than required, because companies might still be using it somewhere, right? So it's not just for CCNA. Our videos will actually make you more ready than you need just for the certification. Then comes IP services. It's a smaller part. You will get around 6 questions. You can say configure and verify the netting, NTP, DHCP, DNS, SNMP, syslog, DHCP, QoS, secure shell, TFTP. So this is something we already do in our old CCNA. Maybe 1 or 2 things which we did not have any configuration, but you can see the keyword. Wherever you see the keyword configure, we will have to configure them. And whenever you see just explaining, you need to know just the concept. No practical is required. And now comes the last 2 parts, which are actually new. You did not have them into the original CCNA routing switching. 15% of the questions, so around, you will see that there may be around 9 questions into this. Oh, sorry, 15 questions can be there. So security fundamentals. Now define key security principles. Describe security program elements. So this is about the basics of security. Configure device access control using local password. This is actually AAA, where we need to configure it just using by the local passwords. So this is pretty straightforward. We already did it before also, so nothing new. Describe the site-to-site VPN. Configure and verify ACLs. So yes, ACLs we already did in the original CCNA also, so this is not new. Configure layer 2 security features. We did not configure them, we explained them, but now we have to configure them also, so this is new. And differentiate AAA, describe wireless security protocols, and configure wireless LAN using WPA to PSK using the GUI. So this is the wireless configuration part. Everything else was on router, but this will be on the wireless LAN controller or access points. So this is new in the security fundamentals part. Last part is completely new, automation and programmability, the software defined networking part. How does the automation work? The difference between traditional network and the controller based networking, and the separation of control plane, data plane, and northbound and southbound API. So this is something we did have in the old CCNA. I wouldn't say it wasn't there, but now it is more specific to Cisco. You can see that Cisco DNA was not there in the last exam, but now we have to explain the Cisco DNA and the concept of REST in a little bit more detail, the representational state transfer API, and also what is the configuration of Puppet, Chef, and Ansible. What is the meaning and capability of these things? Again, you don't need to configure anything, as you can see. This whole section, if you see that it is just theoretical, so don't worry, there will be no configuration yet, but the introduction and the explanation has to be there, and you have to understand this part and interpret JSON, right? So JavaScript object notation has to be clear also. So this is the complete list. You can see it's not much difference. I would say the excuse me, the crux of the story is that you need to have good knowledge of what you already need to have for CCNA routing switching, plus you have to have the knowledge of wireless security and automation. So wireless security and automation, you have to get some hands-on, especially wireless hands-on on GUI, and that will be the main thing. Others, just the theoretical part will be enough, right? So that's the basic idea. Now after passing the new CCNA exam, let's say you prepare for it and you pass it, you will see that you get the CCNA certificate, you get a badge, and also you get 30 CE continuing education credits, which can be used to recertify or to get more training. So this is something which Cisco has created, the continuing education. Whenever you want to recertify, you can always of course recertify by taking an exam, or you can also use the continuing education or CE credits, which can be used for passing further exams or recertifications, right? Now which kind of questions do you get in the exam? So when you will go for the exam, you will have pretty similar questions, multiple choice questions, drag and drops, which we already had before also. The new thing I will say is the fill in the blank. So you will get some fill in the blank questions, testlets, simulations, and simlets. These are the core types of questions. So let's actually go through them one by one and see what to expect in the exam when you go for the exam. MCQ is pretty simple. This is something we already see. Multiple choice questions, where you will have one question and one or more answers are correct. So there can be a radio buttons or square buttons where you can check multiple answers. Drag and drop is also easy. You will have a list of things, there will be a question, and then you have to drag these options here or here depending on what part actually suggests the correct answer, which portion is the correct for them. Like IP is a routed protocol, where RIP is a routing protocol, IGRP is a routing protocol, and so on, right? So this is the basic idea. BGP is a routing protocol. So this is a drag and drop. Fill in the blanks is I would say a new thing, because you have to type something. So you have to click inside the box and type your answer here. It can be one or more characters you have to type. It's not case sensitive unless it's a command or variable which needs to be case sensitive. So you have to be careful about that part. Testlets, on the other hand, testlets are something interesting. You will have to understand the structure of the testlet. In the testlet, what happens that you will have a question like this. Here you will have to read this question properly, and if the question is long, you will see here this is the bar. You have to click on these buttons to make it go down, and then answer this read this question completely. And then you see here in the down there will be multiple choice questions based on what you read here. So there is a problem like an employee who uses a laptop as a workstation at the office is having trouble establishing a connection to the company network, and then all the details which you can read by scrolling it down. Once you are done reading, you read this question here. Of the choices below, what is the only certain conclusion that can be drawn from the ping to the laptop loopback address? And then you have to answer that question. And you have to be very careful to not click on next. You have to be 100% careful. Remember that in Cisco exams, when you click on next and you go to the next question, you cannot go back. You have to be careful, and you have to see here there are 4 questions actually. You have to click on 2, 3, 4. You see here. So once you select the answer first, then click on 2, select the answer, click on 3, select the answer, click on 4, select the answer, and then once you scroll down and see all the questions are answered, then click this next button here. This is the final next button, after which your question is submitted. So you have to be careful. So testlet simply means where you read a theoretical situation and answer based on that situation. Of course, then we have our good old simulations. Simulation simply means that you will be able to access the device and either check the show commands or configure or change something, depends on the question. So again, the structure is simple. You will have a question here in this part. You can scroll it down from here and read the question. After you read the question, then you can actually access one of the routers. Now you know which router you can access. You have to look for this dotted cable here. This dotted cable. This cable is actually the console cable. So you will have to click on the computer and you will get the access to the router, something like this. You will get the access to the router. So you cannot access anything else unless you see that dotted line. You will not be able to access that device. That is the only device you can access. Again, configure it or change it or show command, and then whatever it has to be done, and then you can click next. About simulation, you have to understand that this is not the real router, it is a simulation. So it is supposed to behave like router, but not everything is supported. Like the tab is not supported, so you cannot finish the commands by clicking on tab. You have to type the full commands, and in some cases even question mark help might not be supported as well. So you have to be very sure that what command you are going to type. And then comes the simlets. So simlets are pretty similar to testlets, where you have to answer multiple choice questions, but the difference is in testlets you had just a theoretical situation and then you answer the question based on that theoretical situation. In simlets you will actually get the access to the device, but you will not be able to configure the device. You will only get the access to the privilege mode, where you can use the show commands, and based on the output of the show commands you have to answer these questions. Again, very careful, there are multiple questions here. You can see 1, 2, 3, and you may have to scroll down to see more questions. Unless you finish all the questions, don't click next, don't go to the next part, right? That's the basic idea here. Now, how to earn credits on continuing education program? How can you actually use CE credits? To be honest, if you ask me, it's a bunch of ways to earn more money and get a lot of different things, because ultimately you end up paying more money than doing a recertification. But the benefit on the flip side, I must say, is you learn, because you are paying money to learn something, and if you already paid, you might as well learn it. So it may be a good idea if you really want to learn. But if you just want to recertify, you don't have time for learning, this thing will end up actually making you pay more. But anyway, you can take an exam to earn CE credits. You can attend the Cisco live trainings. You can author content. If it is possible, you can contact Cisco, and if you write something for them, you will get some CE credits. Complete online trainings or the instructor-led trainings. That is also possible, and it will also give you some credits here. Recertification, of course, gives you some credits, or you can use the CE credits for recertification. So it actually works both ways, right? CCNP on the other hand, we will not go into much detail, but CCNP now you don't have any prerequisite for CCNP. You don't need to have CCNA already to pass your CCNP exam. You can directly go for it, and there are two exams in this model. One is the core exam, which is going to be from routing switching, which is called Enterprise now, either from Enterprise or from collaboration, service provider, security, or data center. These are the 5 core topics. You will have to use you will have to do one of the core exams, and then you will do one of the concentration exam where you dig deeper and concentrate on a specific topic from the core parts. So for just to give you one example of CCNP Enterprise. For CCNP and CCIE, there are the following core exams. You will see that Enterprise is there, security, service provider, collaboration, data center. So 5 are there, you can see. And in the CCNP Enterprise, like to give you an example, the core exam is 350-401, which is called NCore, implementing and operating Cisco Enterprise Network Core Technology. So this is the core exam. You must pass this exam to get your CCNP Enterprise certificate, and then you can select one of the concentration exams. Now you can see concentration exam is the deeper dive in one of the topics or set of topics the candidate is interested or working on. So there are different concentration exams for a specific core exam. So like for Enterprise core exams, these are the options you can see. You can go for implementing in Cisco Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services, or SD-WAN solution, designing Cisco Enterprise networks, designing. You can do wireless network, Cisco Enterprise wireless network implementation, or automation and the programming solution. So you can see that you can select a specific topic and get into in-depth knowledge of that. You don't need to do all of these, of course, only one of them. So you pass one core exam and one of these concentration exams, and then you will get your CCNP certification. That's the basic idea. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And just to sum it up again, make sure that you get some good knowledge of Cisco GUI for wireless, configuration of wireless Cisco access points, wireless LAN controllers, their securities, and of course get the hands-on knowledge, not hands-on, sorry, the theoretical knowledge of security and automation before you attempt for the new CCNA exam, right? Now, how can we help? So Karotul is a dedicated training solutions provider. So we don't just call ourselves as training centers, we are training solution provider. So you have a problem, we have a solution. You want to pass CCNA exam, we will get you there. So it's not just we are selling you videos and then we just put our hands like this and we say, okay, we are done, bye bye. No, we will be there with you at every step of your preparation. If you have any questions, you can always contact us, and we will also tell you how you can pass the exam in most efficient way, or what parts you need to improve. And anytime there is a change, we will also make sure we incorporate that. That's why we are a solution provider. We are not just a training institution. Now the videos we have, they are actually very in-depth. For example, for CCNA itself, we had a video series of more than 60 videos, 70 videos. So in-depth video training, unlike anything out there in the market. So for example, currently we have a CCIE course which will have more than 120 videos. You can see that we go in depth. We make sure that the video doesn't mean just to give you basics. Video means to give you the complete holistic approach about that. And you always get the latest updates as soon as possible in the same price. So for example, many of our customers had bought the CCNA videos or CCNP videos from us, and we are in the process to make the new videos, and they will of course get it in the same price they paid. They will not have to pay anything extra. They will get it for free now, right? So that is something which we always do, and that is something you can be rest assured we will be doing in future as well. Now we have trainers with more than 14 years of experience in training, so we go in depth. We make sure that we explain concepts in a way that it's very simple and broken down into multiple specific parts. That is very important to do any technology, right? It's not a boot camp. So even if you join our classes here in Dubai, you will see that it's not a boot camp. We don't actually teach you, for example, CCIE. We don't have a 5-day boot camp. We don't get you in, bombard you with the technological training and then tell you bye bye. No, we don't do that. We have actually the boot camps of 2 months 8 weeks CCIE bootcamps where we go in depth into every technology possible. Same thing for CCNA, CCNP also. We make sure that we not only teach you the concepts but also make you comfortable, familiar with the topologies and the technologies so that you feel confident to do it on your own as well. And of course, always listening to customers. Feedback is important for us, so we always listen to our customers and we always try to help them in whatever the problems we have. So it's not a one-stop thing where you just shop something and say bye-bye. It's like a relationship now with the customer because we are the solution provider, right? So this is the main idea here that we are using. So that's it for this video. I hope you understood, and if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact us at Karotul, and you can send an email on info@karotul.com and we will be more than happy to help you in your certification journey. Thanks a lot. I'll see you into the next one.